Hello everyone, no script for this one, and I don't have the nice regular mic that I use. This is just a regular gaming headset. I just wanted to talk about some of the circumstances behind that last video, why it took so long, why later videos won't exactly be regularly pumped out, that you won't have to wait as long as that last one, I hope. I'm not going to go as far as promised, but I really hope that. And more than anything, I just wanted to see what you guys want to see out of this channel. Kind of just probe your thoughts on what you like, what you dislike, or what you want to see more or less of. There's just going to be some KOF in the background probably, because I've been playing that a bit more lately, and it's important to the namesake of this channel, but that's a whole other story. If you want to skip ahead to the, viewer feedback segment, I will not blame you. But first of all, before any of that, I just definitely wanted to say it's really nice to be able to have an audience that necessitates one of these update videos, like to have people that actually do want your content, who do show support, who do wonder where you've gone when you haven't uploaded in a while. It's really, really cool to have people that respond to my content like that. So yeah, thank you everybody for leaving all those comments. Really puts a pep in my step. Anyway, first off the bat, why did the last video take so long? The cop-out answer would be university, which I'm now finished, thankfully. It's not a full proper excuse, because even when I made that first video, that was kind of in between semesters, or it was before I started or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but other videos have been made in between bouts of study, so it's not a complete answer. The fuller picture kind of comes from the original draft of the Escalator script, which had kind of a summary of why I had an absence. To cut a long story short, I wanted to make a video on some Orson Welles movies. F for Fake, which is his last one, and by necessity his first one, Citizen Kane. He's an important figure, he's an important guy, big, massive screen presence, and he's got a very, very distinctive style, which I was trying to mimic, trying to imitate a little bit in the script, and that's a very intimidating thing to do. It's very, very easy to instantly get cold feet, think you're not doing it justice. It was a little bit pretentious, a little bit too wordy, and I just didn't want to... Yeah, I didn't think I was ready to take that on at that point, so I stopped at that. And I wasn't really sure how to progress from there. Eventually, after taking too much time thinking about that kind of thing, I just settled on doing a top 10 list. I was going to do a top 10 visual novels, my favorite 10 visual novels, which is still an okay idea. It was just like simple, it was just a sort of right off the top of my head kind of thing, because it's whatever I say it is. My top 10 is entirely from my own thoughts and opinions. There's no need to verify that, there's no style I need to mimic, whatever. But even then I kind of started to just like question why I liked some of the stuff as much as I did, because some of these visual novels that I liked so much, it had been so long since I read. Gave up on that too eventually. And when I played Axe and Isle, it was a very good... The subject matter was good for a sort of return video. The idea of just ignoring everything cringe about what you're doing and at least just doing something, putting out something that is your own, it seemed fitting, it seemed right, and that was a good one to return to the channel with. The problem was that, yeah, the first draft of the script was very personal, talking about all that kind of stuff, and I didn't think anybody really cared. Again, I'm making a video on this stuff now, so obviously it is nice to see people that actually were wondering where I had gone, who wanted to see more videos from this channel. Super sweet, you guys are saints. But definitely at the time it was like, if anybody's interested in Axe and Isle and doesn't, for anybody who's not super invested in this micro-celebrity stuff, it's just not very... I don't know why people would want to sit through that, personally. Maybe I'm wrong on that. And the problem is, it was kind of hard to re-record because I don't have a studio booth here where I live, and so the way I recorded the first take, the original script, and then all the rewrites that were a lot later, both of those are in study rooms that I rented out at that university, so if you want to know why the audio still sounds bad, it's because it's in a, cramped library. Yeah, it's not a good recording environment in the slightest. And that of course comes on top of all sorts of general woes, like the absolute agony of audio cleanup, and the amount of time it took to do all those drawing segments. the start of that video with all of the birds flapping around in a sort of revolver shape is taken from one of the promotional videos that they did. And I was really dead set on doing that, but I couldn't clean up the version that they had there, so I went, well, let's just do this, let's just mimic it in a, you know, tracing over stuff kind of style. I don't have artistic talent, but I can trace, and if I want something done, I will just do all of the brute force without rotoscoping and all that stuff, which takes a while, and in fact there's like 100 pictures of the outline of the bird that were all traced one by one in a feverish session, but you know, whatever. And just having that stuff out of the way and done and there as assets was easily one of the biggest driving forces of me not dropping it, because the sunk cost fallacy is a big driving force in my life, it turns out. So all of that stuff was time consuming, but also good that it was there as something I couldn't just ignore and discard and just continue to not upload anything. So, took a while, took much too long. At one point I wanted it to come out on New Year's, as I mentioned a little bit, and that did not happen, clearly. Very much underestimated how much work I'd need to do at the stage I was at, but it's good to be back. Now, that's not to say that the next video is going to come out really soon, I'm going to be a frequent uploader or whatever, because first off, there's going to be a lot of things that carry over, still don't have drawing talent, still do want to have a kind of decent standard of visuals. You know, there's a lot of people that just loop gameplay footage and do sort of the same stuff. They don't put a lot of effort into visuals because a lot of people are really only concerned with audio as far as video essays go. The problem is that I still have those audio problems. So the place where I live is in a share house, so that means there's considerations with how loud I can be and at what times I can record. The other problem is I live pretty much at the front of the house, which is right by a pretty busy road. So recording things whenever there's any people going past is not good. I can probably dig up that first script recording that I did here, where I just shut the windows, turned off the fans, and draped a like doona over my head, which is not...
While misfortune can easily weigh you down, good luck too can turn things around for the better in an instant. Implied in the uplift of the saying, of course, is the idea that good things are...
Did not help things in the slightest. Still hit cars coming past and all that. So there's still going to be audio problems for the foreseeable future while I live where I live, and while moving to a new place is not viable for a number of reasons. And because share house, because other people's considerations, I can't just start recording at 2 AM. So I really don't know what to do about that whole situation. You know, this video obviously is just with my regular gaming headset, trash audio quality, just to kind of emphasize how casual it is, how this is not a main video, this is not super important, but yes, for main video essays, having crap audio is a big problem, and I don't really have a solution to fix it because I don't really know a good place to just go and record for an hour without spending a lot of money for people that expect I'm gonna be there recording my hot new EP for my indie rock band. Any suggestions on that front will be greatly appreciated, but regardless, main thing, there's a whole lot of things I want to talk about in this channel, and I'm not entirely sure which one to start with, and I don't really know what the people who do want to see more of my content do want to see, and I don't want you to say anything, as much as I really do like the unconditional support and all that stuff. But if you wanted to be all saccharine and you wanted to warm the cockles of my heart, I need concrete suggestions. Preference is fine. If you prefer one thing over the other, I'm not gonna hate you for it. Anyway, the reason why I don't do just a general poll is because I think VN stuff, visual novel topics, are going to be more popular just because of the nature of how popular the other videos are, but I do want to do some other stuff. There are more visual novels I like to cover, obviously, but I'd also like to do movies and some TV shows and games in general, all sorts of things. I'd want to do books and music as well if there weren't some considerations about those, about how to make that interesting or how to not get copyright stricken, but either way, I'd like some variety. But the main things I wanted to ask about were, alright, reviews versus analyses. The Axe and Isle video was really a bit of both, and I think to some extent the Uno one was as well, where it is kind of talking about the strengths and the weaknesses of the game, but it is also talking about the messages of the game. I don't know if people prefer one to the other. So reviews versus analysis, that kind of dips into length. Obviously analyses are going to be longer generally if you're going to cover more of the themes and by necessity going to cover more of the plot. Going to need to talk about more things rather than simple surface level things. On the shorter ends, reviews, I was thinking of even maybe experimenting with the shorts format because there have been some people out there doing some interesting stuff with it. If it was like 60-second reviews, I think that's an interesting concept, and maybe just like a month where there's a new one every day could be a fun little project. Other than that, I was also considering maybe doing a series that laser focuses in on like one singular thing about a show, movie, game, whatever. Maybe this level's really interesting, maybe this character's really interesting, and like what sets them apart, why it's something that sticks in my mind, why it kind of represents the game as a whole, or its most interesting parts are all contained in this one specific aspect. You know, that could make things shorter, and that could be an interesting thing to maybe make scripts not take so much time. Spoilers versus spoiler-free stuff. On the review end of the spectrum, you can do that spoiler-free to get people into the game. You know, I wanted to do that with Axon Island, you know, I wanted people to check out the things, but when it was MGS2 and The Last of Us 2, you really have to talk about it in a greater amount of detail until you can really cut into the heart of what you want to say. And there's a lot of people that get a lot of success off of basically summarizing things in video essay format so they don't have to watch an entire TV series or play an entire game or whatnot. I'm maybe not so much a fan of that in concept alone compared to like introducing people to a thing and getting them to engage in the thing, but for some things it's really necessary, and it would be an interesting different thing to try if I want to have variety on this channel. So, you know, do you want things that spoil the entirety of a work that maybe you haven't played before? Maybe there's a visual novel, maybe there's a game that has some accessibility issues or whatnot that still has a lot of interesting stuff to cover. Is that something you'd watch? Is that something you'd prefer to watch rather than something that says, hey, try out this really obscure thing that has a lot of issues with it, like, you know, an untranslated visual novel that I'm showing mostly to like English-only visual novel players, I'm imagining. And the other main thing was positivity versus negativity. When I started the channel, I kind of wanted to only talk about things that I liked, because going and ripping something to pieces that's bad that you hate is easier, but it's also just like, it's a bad energy, it's a bad aura, and it can be really lazy. You can kind of just end up being like a nostalgia critic, just like screaming. And but obviously the Last of Us 2 video completely ruins that. There's no, that's not a charitable video on that subject. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that I really think does deserve to be ripped limb from limb. Probably a lot of controversial takes as well, like sacred cows among certain communities that are just trash. But I don't know if that's something people want from this channel specifically. Like, if this is something that's more about recommending interesting things or talking about why things worked, I can always do what I've done for most of these videos, and just compare things to each other, and one's good and one's bad. Pretty easy to understand, pretty easy to follow, pretty easy to write, I'd say. So I don't know, positive or negative tone, if that's something that people prefer one way or the other. And how much do the visuals and the audio matter to you guys? Are you the kind of people who put this on in the background as a podcast, or does the editing make a significant difference to you? Is that something that if it was lost, you'd really think was a big thing to miss out on? Because there are some fun edits, and there are some really not fun edits to do, that really stuck in my mind when I was doing that last video and putting off some of the like graphs and just like representing data in the real world that just was a pain in the ass to visualize and set out and all that kind of stuff. So if you have any opinions on any of those one way or the other, something you would really like to see, something you would really not like to see, not so much on subjects or subjects to cover specifically, but more on the type of content, I'd love to hear that. So I'm still not 100% sure what I want my next video to be. There are a couple of ideas that have kind of floated to the surface, but I just want to, see what you guys want to see more of. If there's a clear direction that you guys want me to take things in, I'm sure I can find something to match it and just proceed that way. So as I said, I'm just really happy that you guys have been watching and enjoying my content, and hopefully you can give me some pointers on what you want to see from now on. And I hope whatever I put out next can live up to those expectations. Thank you.